Alright, let me ask you something. When was the last time you really thought about your brain? Not in, ugh, I forgot my keys again kind of way, but in a wow, this 3 pound organ is running my entire life without a single day off kind of way. I mean, when did you actually think about how this marvel manages to keep your breathing, blinking, and binging your favorite shows at the same time? It's basically the overworked, underappreciated intern of your body. And guess what? It never even asks for a coffee break. Our brain is like that Wi Fi router you forgot exists, quietly running the show, only noticed when it glitches. But today, we are going to give it the spotlight it deserves. In this video, I'm sharing 5 absolutely mind-blowing facts about the human brain. So whether you are here to learn something new, win your next trivia night, or just marvel at the magic happening in your head, let's crack open the noggin of knowledge. It's going to be literally amazing. Fact number 1. Your brain and mind are not the same thing. For centuries, philosophers have debated this idea, something called dualism. Basically, the belief that your mind and body are like 2 roommates sharing the same apartment but living totally separate lives. Rene Descartes, the I think therefore I am guy, was all in on this. He imagined the mind as some kind of ghostly CEO calling the shots, while the brain was just the assistant jotting down memos. But hold on, modern science steps in like, actually Rene, that's not quite it. Today's researchers say mind and brain are one and the same. 2 sides of the same coin. The mind is the brain doing its thing, like software running on hardware. Still, our brain loves to trick us into believing they are separate. Psychologist Paul Bloom suggests that this illusion that the mind and brain are separate is a mental shortcut. It helps children distinguish between the physical and non-physical aspects of the world as they grow. This kind of cognition simplification is a survival tool for young minds navigating a complex reality. For instance, kids can grasp that a doll isn't alive, even though they might pretend it has thoughts. This shortcut helps them differentiate between the inanimate and animate. The truth bomb here is that our brain creates this illusion for practicality. But as adults, we cling to it, even when science disapproves it. You can frame this as the brain's greatest trick, convincing us of a duality that doesn't exist. It's like a magician who's so good that even after revealing the trick, we still see the illusion. Close your eyes and think of a memory. Where is that memory stored? Your mind or your brain? Interesting, isn't it? If the mind and brain are the same, who's really in control? Your thoughts or your neurons? Fact number 2. Why your brain keeps the world right side up. Have you ever wondered why the world doesn't look upside down, even though your eyeballs flip everything you see? It's like your brain has this secret magic trick. But it's not magic. It's neuroscience. Let's dive into the fascinating story of how your brain makes sense of the flipped, chaotic world it receives and transforms it into something beautiful and functional. The science of seeing. When light enters your eye, it passes through the lens, which bends the rays to focus them on your retina. In the process, the image is flipped upside down. This means that the trees you see are pointing down, and the sky is beneath your feet, at least on your retina. But when the image reaches your brain, something fascinating happens. It doesn't bother flipping it back. Instead, your brain processes the world using relative coordinates. It's less about up and down and more about relationships like tree above ground or sky overhead. Your brain is essentially a creative artist, piecing together sensory input to create your reality. This approach is pure genius. Imagine solving a jigsaw puzzle. You don't care how the pieces are oriented when you pick them up. You just care about how they fit together. That's exactly what your brain does with visual information. It reconstructs the scene based on relationships, not rigid coordinates. In the 1890s, scientists experimented with goggles that flipped the world upside down. After wearing them for days, people's brain adapted and they started seeing the flipped world as normal. Isn't that wild? This brings us to a profound idea in neuroscience. The brain's representations of the world aren't exact copies of reality. They are flexible, adaptable, and sometimes downright weird. The brain's job isn't to recreate reality, it's to make sense of it in a way that guides behavior effectively. For example, when your brain processes visual information, it's not just seeing, it's interpreting. It asks, what's important? What's useful? This adaptability is why your brain can handle everything from reading a book to dodging a soccer ball. This idea of flexibility representation isn't just cool, it's revolutionizing technology. Take artificial intelligence, for example. Neural networks are inspired by how our brains process information. By studying how the brain simplifies and reconstructs data, scientists are making AI systems better at recognizing patterns and solving problems, and even driving cars. So, the next time you look at the world, remember this. Your brain isn't just passively showing you what's out there. It's actively creating your reality, piece by piece. Isn't that a beautiful metaphor for life itself? Sometimes things may seem upside down, but with the right perspective, you can make sense. Fact number 3. The quirky truth about being awake during brain surgery. Have you ever seen that viral video of a woman playing the violin while surgeons operated on her brain to remove a tumor? Sounds wild, right? At first glance, it might seem bizarre or even a little scary, but this extraordinary case reveals the quirky truth about the brain that will leave you wondering, wait, how is that even possible? Here's the interesting part. Being awake during brain surgery is actually more common than you might think. When surgeons operate on the functional areas of the brain, like those responsible for movement, speech, or vision, they often wake the patient during the procedure. Why? Because they need real-time feedback to ensure those crucial functions are working perfectly. Imagine this. You're lying on an operating table and your surgeon gently asks you to wiggle your toes or say hello while they are working on your brain. It's teamwork at its finest. Science and human resilience coming together in the most incredible way. Does brain surgery hurt? Actually, no. The brain itself doesn't feel pain during surgery. This is because your brain doesn't have nociceptors, the receptors responsible for detecting pain. So while surgeons are carefully maneuvering through your brain tissue, your brain is totally unbothered, like a calm Sunday morning. But wait, before you get too comfortable, here's the tingly part. The only pain you would feel during brain surgery comes from the outer layers, the scalp, skull, and meninges, those protective layers surrounding the brain. That's why patients usually receive general or local anesthesia for the incision and skull opening. Once those steps are done and you're awake, it's game on. I mean, think about how amazing this is. People have sung songs, solved math problems, and even played musical instruments during brain surgery. These real-time activities help surgeons navigate the brain's delicate network and avoid damaging key areas. It's like a high-stakes orchestra where the patient is both the audience and the performer. Fact number 4. Your brain is a tiny energy guzzler and it's totally worth it. Did you know that your brain, though it weighs just 1.4 kgs or about 3 pounds, uses a staggering 20% of your body's energy? That's like having a tiny high-performance engine running your entire life non-stop. But where does all that energy go? Let's break it down.
1.
Keeping you alive, your brain's default mode. So, even when you're fast asleep, your brain is hard at work, managing life-sustaining functions like breathing, your heartbeat, and digestion. The medulla oblongata, this small but mighty part of your brain, acts like an autopilot, keeping you alive without a single conscious thought.
2.
Mastering movement and coordination. Every time you move, whether it's typing messages, doing yoga, or waving hello, your brain's motor cortex and cerebellum are orchestrating a flawless performance. Imagine Olympic gymnasts flipping through the air with perfect timing. That's your brain choreography in action.
3.
Thinking, feeling, and solving problems. From solving a tricky puzzle to feeling all the emotions while watching a rom-com, your brain is a multitasking genius. The prefrontal cortex handles problem solving while the limbic system takes the lead on emotions. It's like having a supercomputer and an artist in one.
4.
Storing and retrieving memories. Ever wondered how you recall your best friend's laugh or your favorite childhood game? That's thanks to your hippocampus, your brain's memory vault. Neuroscientists say that accessing even one memory activates a symphony of brain regions like fireworks in your hand.
5.
Feeding the beast, what keeps your brain going. Brains are picky eaters. They need premium fuel to function at their best. Omega-3 rich foods like salmon and walnuts keep things running smoothly, while blueberries act as antioxidants protecting your brain. And don't forget healthy carbs, they are its primary energy source.
6.
Power nap alert. Even while you sleep, your brain is hustling, clearing out toxins, repairing itself, and solidifying memories. It's like the ultimate night shift crew. That's why a good night's sleep isn't just refreshing, it's brain fuel. Fact number 5. Your brain doesn't just see the world, it creates it. Alright, let's talk about something mind blowing. Your brain doesn't just process the world around you, it actively creates your experience of reality. Yeah, your brain isn't just sitting back and interpreting what's happening, it's making up its own version of the world. See, your brain receives all this raw sensory data from the world: light, sound, taste, touch. But this data is often incomplete and can be ambiguous. So, what does your brain do? Hmm. Well, it fills in the gaps by using patterns, memories, and assumptions to make sense of it all. This is called predictive coding. And here comes the crazy part. What you see or hear isn't necessarily what's really out there. It's your brain's best guess based on all the information it's getting. So, you're not experiencing the world directly. You are experiencing your brain's version of it. For example, take the famous Rubin's vase illusion. What do you see here? A vase or two faces? Your brain flips back and forth between these interpretations. That's because it's prioritizing different patterns in the data it is receiving. It's not seeing a vase or faces, it's choosing what it thinks fits best. And get this, your brain can predict so effectively that sometimes it perceives things that aren't even there. Ever heard your name being called in a crowded room when no one's around? Or see shapes in the dark? That's your brain's way of filling in the blanks, making educated guesses based on what it already knows. This ability to predict and construct reality is why humans are so extraordinary. It helps us stay ahead of dangers, learn new things fast, and even come up with creative solutions before we are faced with problems. It's like your brain's got a built-in superpower. But here's the $1,000,000 question. Is reality truly what we see? Or is it just a clever story our brain tells us? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this mind-bending truth. And quiz time! Let's go. How many did you get it right? Let me know in the comments. Bye bye.